guys, I hope your day's going well. I had mentioned in a haul video not too long ago that I got my hands on the Sweet Peach palette from Too Faced. My local Ulta happened to have it in stock. At the time, I think it was sold out online on Sephora's site, Too Faced site, Ulta's site, but at that point in time it was like, if you can find it in person, that's the only way you're gonna get it. And actually, even before I got this palette, I was noticing some different things in my collection, just based on pictures of this that I'd seen, that actually seemed to have some really similar shades. So I was thinking, you know, if I don't get this palette, it's fine. But then when I finally saw that I had access to it in person, I'm like, okay, let's go for it, and maybe we can really do some good comparisons here. So this is what the peach palette looks like. It's kind of in the style of those chocolate bar palettes, except instead of smelling like chocolate, it smells like peaches. Now, none of my alternatives smell like peaches, so I'm just gonna burst your bubble right there. But there are several, like, I think clearly peachy colors in here. And then you've got all these different supporting shades. You've got highlights, you've got some different warm colors that I think play really nicely with the peachy tones. And then you've got a few kind of interesting colors to throw in with it. A couple of deep dark plums, some olive greens as well. You could certainly leave peach out of your look and get a lot of other kinds of looks with this palette. But bottom line, a lot of neutrals with a few pops. So I thought, okay, let's do this. The first thing that I actually laid eyes on in my collection before ever getting the peach palette, and I talked about this a little on Snapchat, but this is a palette that I think can give you some very similar looks. I'm not calling anything in this video a dupe, because it's not like I've found something that has a shade for shade, like identical comparison to this palette. These are more like some palettes that are kind of inspired by some of the things I see in the peach palette. And the one I'm talking about right now is this Makeup Revolution Neutrals versus Neutrals palette. And as you can see, it's got several peachy shades. It's got a nice warm brown to work in there, but there are a lot of other neutrals as well. You've got that really dark, like kind of sparkly plum color, and I definitely saw that in the peach palette. In this bottom row, you've got everything ranging from pink to bronze to taupe, so pretty much any neutral you wanted to mix in with the peachy shades, you've got it. And I'm wearing this palette today. I did a lot of this color, which is kind of like a matte or satin finish peach all over the lid, and then I used a lot of this sparkly, really dark plum in the outer corner, and then I kind of blended just up above the crease with this light rusty shade right there. So I love the quality of this. I thought the shadows were super easy to work with. This is probably one of my favorite Makeup Revolution eye palettes, and using those particular colors that I used from this palette, it's definitely a look that you could get with the peach palette as well. So kind of a dupe type look. I really like how all these alternatives are very budget friendly as well. The other one I want to mention here is the City Color Figtastic Palette. Again, this is not a total, you know, dupe for the peach palette, but it definitely has some similar things happening with a couple of peachy shades right over here. You've also got like a few little colorful pops in terms of the purple. You have something a little bit extra here and different from the peach palette with that magenta color. I also really like the gold that's in this palette as well, but you do have kind of a deep olive green, a really pretty dark plum. So I think this is a really fun palette, and if you were looking to do a look that had a little pop of peachy color, you could definitely get there with this. This next palette is maybe a little bit of a stretch, but it's something that I think would be nice for those people who do want that little corally pop on the eyes, but don't necessarily want to load up on tons of other warm shades, because where a lot of the supporting colors in this palette I think have a lot of warmth to them, in this palette from Sleek, this is called the Oh So Special palette, you've got a couple of kind of corally pinky shades, but then a lot of cool tones to mix in with it, kind of wear around it. So you've got the deep dark plum, there's a nice black in this palette that's really nice quality, kind of a warm bronzy type shade, but overall I feel like it's got a lot of cool tone things happening. So if you wanted more of a cool take on Sweet Peach, this might be for you. My next three things are smaller drugstore quads, or one of them's a 5-color palette, and I'm definitely not saying like these are the equivalent to the Sweet Peach palette, because they're not. You know, they're smaller, but if you are just wanting to pick up a little something that could give you a pop of peach on the eyes, these are just a few things that are out there. A really nice option, I've worn this one quite a bit actually, is this L'Oreal Color Riche quad, and the shade is called Shopping Spree. And there's this beautiful matte coral here, and then kind of a golden peach along with it, and then a couple of fun deeper tones to pop on. One is kind of like a silver mixed with charcoal, and then a matte black. And the quality on these is actually pretty good. So if you were just wanting that little coral pop on the eyes, that can definitely take you there. Another one that I know I've talked about for years, this is one of my favorite Maybelline Eye Studio quads, and the shade is Coral Oasis. And you can see where the L'Oreal one, it's a little more pinky coral. This goes much more orange there. I love this interesting, like, light spring green, like mix between spring green and lime green in there. That's really cool. A really deep, dark, rich brown, and then a pearly shade in there as well that makes a really pretty highlight. It is all shimmer in this palette. You can definitely get a nice amount of contrast when you work in the brown, but just a heads up on that. I love that palette. Those Eye Studio quads are just a fantastic texture. And then the other one I need to mention here, and I think this is still available on the NYX website. Maybe a lot of you already have this one in your collection and you just didn't realize. It's kind of similar to the peach palette. It's the NYX Eat, Love, and Be Fab. This definitely gives you a pretty emerald green, this beautiful peach with golden shimmer, a matte light brown, which is awesome for the crease. You've got kind of a goldeny champagne highlight, and then a really deep dark brown as well. So there's one more way to get that pop of peach in your look for a very affordable price. And I'm not trying to say that this isn't a good palette or a beautiful palette or a palette that can give you some awesome looks. I think it's great, but for the fact that it's so hard to get your hands on, you might be looking for some alternatives. So that's just what I'm trying to mention in this video. Some things that are sort of inspired by this type of look. And if you'd like to see tutorials using any of the palettes I mentioned, please let me know. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.